Shane Brennan, we start with you on the Raiders, who I'm going to put my neck out slightly here and say I've been kind of looking around the league saying, who's the team that's going to surprise us next year? Who's the team that's going to surprise us to the upside, at least? Raiders went 4-13 last year. They got Pete Carroll in town. When we talked about the Broncos about Sean Payton and how fired up Sean Payton is about the Broncos and the energy at training. Looking at Pete Carroll, 73 years young as I think he is now, looking at the energy that he has, he's bringing Geno Smith with them. They've got Ashton Genty. They have Brock Bowers. They got some pieces. They could be tricksy. I like what's brewing in Las Vegas. I wonder how far it'll take them this year. And this is a brutal division, as we've talked about. But I don't think that Pete Carroll and that Raiders team are going to go down without going down swinging.
No, I definitely think this is not a team we should take for granted. The strength of the other three teams means that the Raiders aren't being talked about as potential division toppers, which again we might end up all being proved wrong by the end of the season. But you look at all the pieces they have there: Pete Carroll, Ashton Genty, Chip Kelly being brought in as offensive coordinator, the players they have already there. There's a core of a really fun team that could really bring us out over the course of the year. I think the big thing as well is bringing in Pete Carroll. And obviously Geno Smith coming in as well, and a couple of the other former Seahawks people who have come over. People are saying, this is just the Pacific Northwest being remade in the desert. But I definitely think this is indicative of a different kind of culture shift that they have attempted in Las Vegas before, because they've attempted to try and rebuild the whole Patriot Way thing with Josh McDaniels. When Antonio Pierce in last season, everybody knew that wasn't really the long-term solution that the Raiders needed, and they obviously had some troubles at the quarterback position as well. So when you're in a position, you're sitting there looking at a squad. The Geno's in there. I think we had a fairly consistent season last year. Had a great receiver core with DK Metcalf to throw to in Seattle, but that doesn't necessarily knock what he's able to do here. Ashton Genty, Raheem Mostert could be a nice 1-2 combination in the run game. Brock Bowers, of course, is somebody we all like at the tight end position. They still got Max Crosby being the spiritual leader of that defense. There's a lot there to give them belief if they find any point of the season to gain momentum. So, if one of the other three teams really backs off, and like if we transplanted the Raiders into the AFC South or East, for example, we'd be talking them up as serious challengers for the division. Like, there is plenty of talent here. The question really is, how long is it going to take for the Pete Carroll system to sort of get any consistency? Because that was the one thing that they actually struggled to get at the end of his tenure in Seattle, was consistency. And in Ashton Genty, you could potentially have Beast Mode 2.0. There are definitely areas for them to build in if they want to try and build an identity and create a new Raiders style of football in the old Raiders style as well. But that just might take more time than we think. And maybe it's another year before the Raiders are really challenging for the division. But that doesn't mean that they won't come away with some surprising victories and some really, really good performances over the course of the year.
Kieran O'Donovan, one of the advantages the Raiders have is that they don't have the burden of expectation on them because of the division that they're in, because of the competition around them, because it's only year one of the Pete Carroll project. Nobody's expecting anything from this team, and that in a way could make them dangerous.
Yeah, and I think that is one thing that they do have going for them, because everybody's talking about the Broncos and everybody's talking about the Chargers. Just one point to make, again, before we move on. I don't know if we've covered it already. Is this the first time a division has had 4 head coaches that have represented their team, have been to a Super Bowl as a head coach? Have there ever been a division? I've been trying to go back and find one.
Thinking about that earlier myself, yeah, it's very hard to find to find that out. But you can't imagine that there's been a collection of talent in a division like this before, where you got like how many Super Bowls have they won between them, and they've all represented.
Might be the old NFC East. It might have been Parcells and. I
was thinking about those divisions as well, unless I mix, the way the divisions used to be different. So, I could be wrong, but I was racking my brains.
And a college football championship as well.
Absolutely. So, that pedigree of coaching, it's already made this division one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting divisions in football. But look, I digress, should I say. I really can't add much to what Shane said, and I agree 100% with what you've said. again, listening to reports on the ground, loads and loads of positives. Like Geno Smith apparently looks very comfortable and is familiar with Chip Kelly, was recruited by him out of high school, I think, and is comfortable in his offense, really looks to be taking command. Ashton Genty is coming as advertised. Everybody is raving about him and the fact that he could be generational. The fear is that they might be, as Shane said, 1 year away, that they might just lack a little bit of depth on the roster, particularly in the receiver room. Jacoby Myers as a number one, is he good enough? They really will probably lean on Brock Bowers, so a bit of a lack of depth at receiver. I know that they had their drama with Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle. He's gone, so there's a lot of roles up for grabs on the interior of the D line. So a huge, they could look to make a huge positive step. And another interesting take I heard this week as well was that the influence of Tom Brady shouldn't be underestimated, that he's he's come in and done a little bit of work under the radar, incognito, in terms of draft and development. And he looks to be helping to put the right kind of people in the room as well. And, between Tom Brady and Pete Carroll and the culture that they might be able to develop, they may be heading in the right direction, but they just might be that little bit behind the other 2 or 3 teams.
I'm sure Tom Brady, with his 3% stake in Birmingham City, will have them in the Champions League in a couple of years as well. He's got his head all over a Netflix an Amazon Prime documentary at the moment.
He won't be bringing in Wayne Rooney, I tell you that.
No, indeed he won't. Talk to us a little bit, Kieran Boyle, about Ashton Genty and just how good he is, because it's a very exciting prospect. This is going to be a fun team to watch, and that offense has some real superstars in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said earlier that there's no burden of expectation. I think that's because I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. Genty was a force in college football, a human highlight reel, and I think in fairness to him, I think he will hit the ground running, to use that phrase, in the league. I think he's just too good. There's only a handful of players that I can think from the draft that will excel in their opening season, and he is definitely one of them. Warren at the Colts as well, but. There's too many, again, just like I spoke about the Chargers. For me, there's too many holes. I think Genty is going to be overused because that's really it. When you look at that wide receiver room, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Dante Thornton, Colin Johnson from the Bears. I mean, I know they got Jack Beck in the draft, Jack Betch, but that is paper thin in wide receiver. This is a passing league. The NFL is a passing league, and that is very paper thin in my opinion. There's not a lot of talent right there compared to other teams. So that leads to the suggestion that they're going to lean heavy on Ashton Genty, and they're going to work him like the Boise State did in college football, give him about 30, 35 touches and let him rack up 200-plus yards and hope that's going to be enough to keep him competitive. Because other than Brock Bowers and possibly Michael Mayer at tight end position, this offense is paper thin for me. I don't see a lot of points being put up, and I don't see a huge amount of development from last year either. I mean, they've got problems with the defense. Again, I think they got a problem blocking or stopping the run as well. Other than Max Crosby, I mean, that's there's not a huge amount there. Devin White, Elandon Roberts. I mean, it's a weak linebacker room. Safeties. I know they got Jeremy Chin from Washington, but it seems like there's just too little there to build. And again, it's Carroll's first year. Look what he did with the Seahawks when he got there. He is 73, but he's probably the youngest 73-year-old there is in the world. So he probably thinks he's got 3 to 4 more years to develop this. We saw what Peyton did when he took over the Broncos. That was a rough first year. I think this is going to be a rough first year for the Raiders, but they're definitely they're going in the right direction. But this is not going to be the year that they make any noise in the league. There's too many question marks for me. Just weak in the linebacker room. They won't be able to stop the run. Over reliance on Genty. I just hope he stays healthy because they're going to be using him like a lot. So I just hope
and every single fantasy owner who's killing themselves to draft Ashton Genty.
I mean, that's all they got. I mean, that's in my opinion, that's all I can see. And I hope for his sake that he stays healthy, and I hope for the Raiders' sake they don't overuse him and end up by week 7 with a problem at that position. But I just don't see it with the Raiders. They may get an extra win from last year, but other than that, no.
All right, gentlemen, the hour is upon us, as they say, and we have to pick who is going to win this division and what the order of the remainder of the teams is going to be. I will take the first plunge here and go first. I think Chiefs are going to win the division again. I have Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. Shane?
I'm going to go Broncos to win by tiebreak, Chiefs, Chargers, then Raiders.
Kieran O'Donovan?
Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders. And to Kieran's point, I think the Chiefs will then go on a run and could make the AFC Championship game.
And Kieran?
I have the Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, and the Raiders propping it up.
All right, that is a wrap for the AFC West. Check out all our other division previews as they arrive over the coming weeks on the podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, or on our social channels.